Alright. Hello, welcome back to X-Men Classics. And in this episode, this is episode number 6. And in this episode, we're going to go over 3 issues of this X-Men series, of the original X-Men title, the one that's still publishing this very day, Kenny X-Men. Today, we're going to go through issues 7 through 9. First up, issue number 7, which features the return of the Blob, obviously. But it has 2 other major noteworthy things as a sort of a development for the series. One, Xavier leaves the roster. He's still in the series, though, but he leaves the X-Men. And, well, basically, because of the events of the previous issue of the series, the X-Men officially graduated. They're no longer students. They are now basically official X-Men. Yes. And basically, and then it cuts away to this mansion. This, it's probably in Salem Center. That's my guess. They don't give the definitive name for this place. And this is also something quite bizarre. Of course, Mastermind is still trying to put the moves on Scarlet Witch, even though she keeps rejecting his advances toward him. And he even openly plots against Magneto. And he gets upset about it. And this, I think, is a bit strange. Where is his cape? Did Jack Kirby forget to draw his cape? And yet, here in the next panel, he's got his cape on. Yeah, there is no explanation for that at all. And Quicksilver, acting the overprotective brother as he is, thinks his sister's been hurt. And this is noteworthy about this one. There's no, how should I put this? There's no first time appearance of a character, but there is a first in this issue. The first appearance of Cerebro Mark 1. Yes, this is Cerebro Mark 1. Thank you, Jack. This is drawn by Jack the King Kirby. And basically, it's also in this very time, it's like he introduces Cerebro to Cyclops, and Cyclops is immediately appointed because he has the quality of leadership, so he's appointed as Xavier's replacement as leader of the X-Men. So, while the X-Men go to town, basically just do whatever they want. Basically, Magneto's looking for more recruits to his Brotherhood, and he runs into the Blob. Still doing pretty much the same thing he was doing before when he was last seen in issue number 3. Yes. And he detects the mental block basically because Xavier erases memories of the whole thing that happened in issue 3. And he gets his memories back in the most unusual way possible. He bangs his head against something. I am not kidding. That's how he gets his memory back. He bangs his head against a cart, and that is how he gets all his memories back. And Cyclops is alerted to the fact that Blob has regained his memories, so he contacts the X-Men. The X-Men are basically hanging out in some swingy club. And of course, Beast decides takes off his shoes and just act like crazy. They of course get the call, and the X-Men go to battle, and they take on the Blob again, along with the Brotherhood. They actually defeat the Blob. And of course, Page, of course, being Magneto. I mean, that's really Magneto's plan for this, to try to recruit the Blob. Yeah, that turned out to be a fiasco. Yep. So basically, after what happened, basically Magneto kind of turns against the Blob, though later on he does rejoin the Brotherhood. He basically just says that he's done fighting mutants, and he's going back to the carnival, though he comes back about 2 years later. In the next writer's one basically brings the character back, and the book just ends with them basically just like, we gotta get a ride home because they don't have a car, apparently. So this issue I thought was really good, and I thought this was a really smart decision I think this was at the time bringing back the Blob after not like bringing it back in the very next issue of Kenny X-Men. But bring him back 4 issues after his last appearance, which From look at this, basically when he returned in this very issue, it had only been about, because the book's released every couple months, it only had been, even though it's 4 issues, it basically had been about 8 months since anybody had seen the Blob. So basically almost a whole year. Okay, fine, bring it back. And here's something interesting though. The Blob never returns to Stan Lee's run after this. He does return for the succeeding writer's run, but he doesn't return to Stan Lee's run. Overall, very good issue. 8 out of 10. Great issue. Alright. Next issue is issue number 8, which features the debut of Eunice the Untouchable. Yep. Basically, the issue starts out, and of course, the story is called The Uncanny Threat of Eunice the Untouchable. And basically, Cyclops puts the X-Men through some training, even though they've already students, so they probably need some training to relax their muscles. And one also noteworthy thing about this issue, besides the fact this is the first appearance of Eunice the Untouchable, it's also the first time Iceman becomes fully ice, instead of, being stuck in the snowman form. Basically, Cyclops teaches Bobby how to sort of, let's say, redefine his ice crystals, make him so smooth. So with this very issue and onwards, to this very day, Iceman is smooth whenever he becomes ice form. So he's not, stuck in the snowman. I think this is a really nice character development for him. And I will explain the noteworthy this very issue. So Jean is just sewing some stuff, and after they finish the training, they have Cyclops gives them the afternoon off, and basically there's this kid. Then Beast and Iceman just walk the city in their civilian clothes, mind you. So Beast just takes off his shoes, walks up the wall, saves the kid, and then everybody just starts freaking out, and they barely get away with their lives, and they come back to the Xavier Institute with their suits in rags. They're just torn up. So Beast just openly quits the X-Men, though he does come back at the end of the issue. And Beast and then cuts away after, and of course Cyclops contacts Xavier, who's actually in Europe. Of course, he's searching for the guy who cost him the use of his legs. Then it cuts over to the wrestling ring, where we get introduced to Eunice the Untouchable. Basically, let's see. This is the first time he's seen as a wrestler. Yes, unlike the Blob, who was a circus sideshow, Eunice the Untouchable is a wrestler. Which, okay, that kind of does make sense for someone of his build. I mean, and the fact that he and he uses his ability to basically people like no one could touch him. And he gets sort of like he defeats his opponent simply by not even hitting him. Basically, his power is to have people bounce off him. And he wins via countout, even though the guy could have been disqualified, but who knows. And then basically it cuts short time later to his dressing room, and he's meeting with Mastermind of the Brotherhood. Now, this does count as part of the Brotherhood saga, even though the Mastermind is the only person who's actually part of the Brotherhood in this issue. I think this is a nice addition to what goes on. Basically, now Magneto is not skeptical. He does believe he's a good candidate to join the Brotherhood, but he's a bit skeptical because of what happened with the Blob in the previous issue. So he gives him time, and he basically wants him to draw the X-Men out, which he does. He commits a bank robbery. Well, basically, he just does whatever he wants, and the X-Men just attack him. Takes a little while, and then after they defeat him the first time, they develop a ray gun just so hopefully to beat him. And they later got contact with him again. And the ray gun does something a bit unusual. The ray gun makes his powers amplified, where he can't touch anything. Everything that he does basically has stuff going away from him, like cigarettes, a chair, even a piece of pie He can't eat not a piece of pie. Basically, he can't eat a piece of meat that's falling with him. So they give him his. So the X-Men needed him again. Sorry about that. Ah, my nose is itchy. Anyways, I get complaints about basically I'll be doing this in my videos. So the X-Men was an antidote, and the only way that he'll keep the antidote in his system is if he doesn't join the Brotherhood, and he does. Though he later on joins the Brotherhood anyways, but who cares? And he just walks off and goes back to the wrestling ring, and that's it. And of course, a nice pin-up of a Beast by Jack the King Kirby. Overall, this was a decent issue. And and it's a nice little sidestep. It's kind of like a bit of a filler in the Brotherhood saga. But not much filler as was issue 5. This is kind of filler. I mean, the whole point of this issue is just to introduce Unison Untouchable, a brand new villain, and having Iceman smooth out his ice form. That's simply the whole point of this issue. But it's still a decent issue, and I give the issue an 8.5 out of 10. It's still a good issue. Alright, next one is a really big one. First time since issue 6 they did this. In issue number 9... it's the first time the X-Men meet the Avengers. Yep. And the line for this time is Giant Man, Wasp, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. This is before Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver join the team. This is like pre-Avengers. This is like during like the first like 14 issues of this 14, like basically the first 15 issues of the series. And not only is the first meeting to the X-Men and the Avengers, it's also the first appearance of this guy, Lucifer, the guy who cost Xavier his legs. Despite the fact, at least 6 issues prior to this, he said it was a childhood accident. That was a lie. So this issue was called Into the Avengers, featuring the earth-shattering threat of Lucifer. I am not kidding. And here's the thing about Lucifer. He's an alien. Despite the fact he looks like a human. Go figure. And the issue opens up basically with the X-Men some kind on cruise, and of course this cruise ship is about to hit an iceberg. Sounds like Titanic. Of course, this is like, I don't know. This is like about 33 years before Titanic film came out. And of course, unbeknownst to the crew of the ship, Cyclops destroys the iceberg, and he's a bit exhausted. He's taken back to his room so he gets cooled off. And then Xavier contacts him about what he's been doing in Europe. He's been looking for Lucifer. And here's Lucifer. That's what he looks like in the comic. And he finds Lucifer's lair. And Lucifer plans to blow up the planet, obviously. Somehow, the Avengers get a hold of the information. Somehow, the Avengers get a hold of Lucifer's threat. I'm not sure how. It's never really explained in this issue. So they run to some guy, and of course they all show off their powers. He just runs away, and somehow the X-Men track down where Lucifer's lair is, and basically the X-Men are told to basically delay the Avengers. And what do you know? This is something also have Avengers #1. The time last week went delay the Avengers all costs. So the X-Men, the Avengers, get into a fight. A fight that lasts for several pages until Xavier contacts Thor telepathically, telling him that everything is fine. They don't want to harm Lucifer at all. And Lucifer is knocked down conscious. He's the one to kill him. And he explains to Thor what's going on, and he calls the battle off, and tells them, and the Avengers basically, he tells the Avengers that he basically calls like emergency, like a huddle, and tells them basically let the X-Men deal with this, and they all just go back to the Avengers mansion, and then they go, and after the Avengers leave, the X-Men descend into Lucifer's lair, which is underneath a mountain, and they disarm his bomb, which would basically destroy the polar ice caps. And then basically Lucifer is free of his mental control, even though that they have a debt they have to settle. But he allows Lucifer to leave. And then basically the issue just ends like that. And of course we also get a pinup of Jean Grey. Very beautiful pinup by Jack McKean Kirby. Otherwise, though, that's it for that one. Issue 9 is still it's a bit of a weird issue. Issue 9. It's not as good as, let's say, issue 7 and 8. It's not much action packed. This one. I mean, you got introduced to a very minor villain in the form of Lucifer, but I think the biggest takeaway from this issue is the fact that you have the Avengers meeting the X-Men for the first time ever. Still a good issue, though a bit of a step down from the previous 2 issues. So I give X-Men number 9 a 7.5 out of 10. It's a bit of a step down, anyways, but I could give it. I'll probably give it. I'll just give it an 8. It's still a good issue, but it's a bit of a step down from the previous 2 really good issues of the series. So basically, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which I will review issues 10 and 11 of this very series. But until then, see you there. Bye.